Hey everyone, John Greenwald here, creator and founder of theblackvault.com. I decided to make this video to excerpt the UFO related cuts from my interview with James Woolsey. Now, I do want to urge you and encourage you to look at the whole interview. It puts into context secrecy as a whole. Obviously, the main brunt of the interview was about the JFK assassination, and I had cleared with him and his PR people to ask about UFOs. Now, my original plan, the way that I envisioned the show going anyway, was that I would do this interview and ask him about his book and about his research and about everything that he did inside of it. And then towards the end, the latter 5% of the interview would be a couple UFO related questions. That's what I thought. But to my surprise, it seemed like he really did want to talk about UFOs. He alluded to it a little bit into the interview that we'd be talking about it later. So obviously you guys probably figured out he knew those questions were coming, or at least one or two of them. But then he kind of segued to it himself, which I was pleased with, but also a little bit surprised. And so I had transitioned the interview to deal with those questions kind of in the middle of it. However, to my further surprise, he gave me much more detail than I thought. Even though I had cleared asking him about UFOs, I had absolutely no idea what he was going to tell me. I thought he may dismiss the whole thing. I thought that that was a big possibility, and hey, that's okay, but I wanted to ask him nonetheless. I also thought maybe he'd give an interesting soundbite or two. Little did I know he'd go into this type of deep detail and this level of detail. So stay tuned for a quick blast. This is the UFO segment from my interview with former CIA Director James Woolsey. And let me just interject for a second. So all of those who are watching this and will comment on this video or on the podcast and say, well, that's exactly what you would expect from a former director of the CIA. What would your response be? Because I know those comments are coming.
We'll know more within a few weeks, perhaps, because there have been, over the years now, events of one kind or another, usually involving some kind of aircraft-like airframe, that has put a number of people into a situation where they'd say, like me, I never thought there was anything to all this. It always seemed pretty far out to me. Don't know what the reality is, but, and fill in the but. There was one case in which a friend of mine was able to have his aircraft stop at 40,000 feet or so and not continue operating as a normal aircraft. What was going on? I don't know. Does anybody know? We'll have to look into it. There have just been enough things like that have occurred that I think there will be a lot of examination of what's going on over the course of the several months, or maybe years, but maybe months to go.
And obviously you're talking about the secrecy around unidentified aerial phenomena and UFOs. Can I ask you to clarify, were you using an analogy or were you being serious that you had a friend that had an aircraft at 40,000 feet that mysteriously stopped?
I said it was, I have a friend who had been in an aircraft. 40,000 is not crazy. I mean, that's just, all your pilots looking at this know that's not a wild and crazy idea. But I've talked to someone whom I respect, who says that there was some event in which an aircraft was paused. And basically that's all I know about that.
Wow. I mean, you're kind of blowing my mind there. I really didn't expect that type of a story. And I appreciate you sharing that. Let me, if you don't mind, if I can stick with that topic, since we shifted a little bit from the JFK assassination, but talking about secrets and the CIA and so on. John Brennan, another former director of the CIA, had come out. And in fact, just to make sure that I have his quote right, and I wanted your reaction and maybe your overall thoughts on it, John Brennan had did a interview with George Mason University, and he was talking about UFOs and UAPs, and he was referencing some of the videos that have come out. I'm not sure if you're aware of those or watched them or anything, but called them quite eyebrow raising. And then he started talking about life in the universe. I think it's a bit presumptuous and arrogant for us to believe that there's no other form of life anywhere in the entire universe, which was pretty interesting to hear a former director of the CIA talk about. John Ratcliffe, former DNI, he was interviewed with Fox News. He was talking about vehicles traveling that would exceed the sonic barrier without, the sound barrier, without a sonic boom. That interview got a lot of attention too. So can I add your name to the list of those that are speaking out about this? What are your overall thoughts about whatever that phenomena is, and what are we dealing with?
The only list I'm comfortable going on is one that would say these people have reported very curious behavior by aircraft. And it may be something real that is an extraordinary change for some unheralded reason, or it may be a complex set of different views of what's going on in the world of cyber and so forth. So I just don't know, but I'm not as skeptical as I was a few years ago, to put it mildly. Something is going on that's surprising to a series of intelligent aircraft experienced pilots. And we'll just have to
see what it is.
See what it is.
Do you feel it's us? I mean, do you, in the sense that America is potentially testing something, and let's say the Navy doesn't know that the Air Force is testing technology? Do you think it's Russia doing what they do best and trying to, taunt us and in various ways? Do you have a theory in that regard? Because you had mentioned you're not as skeptical as you were a couple years ago. What did you mean by that?
Just that I have been not in the presence of, but I've been in conversations with several individuals who have been close to an aircraft performing in an extraordinary fashion, that performs in a fashion that has not yet come to be something that people are comfortable with or expecting to see. That's about as far as I'd like to go.
Sure.
Which is openness to new things, willingness to examine them, hope that we can be friendly and able to deal with a wide range of behaviors in terms of dealing with our fellow human beings or with other creatures if they exist. I think we ought to be open to new possibilities. Some new possibilities are frauds. I don't think this one is, but over history, there have been a lot of frauds, and we could have another one. I don't think so.
it's a fascinating topic. I want to transition back to your book, but if I can just ask you one last question, because this actually ties into a personal connection I have with you. I don't expect you to remember it, but about a decade ago, I was producing a television series for the History Channel, and your name, as I'm sure you recall this part, had turned up into kind of UFO legend. And I had talked to your office as a producer. We were looking to interview you then, and your office had informed us that the story we heard was not real, and so we didn't pursue it and respected that. But I know that my audience would want me to ask you this about a alleged briefing by a doctor who wrote about it in a book and said that he sat down with you and he was a briefer of UFOs. For you when you were the sitting director. So again, just for my audience who's not aware of the rebuttal, is there any truth to that story that you were briefed on UFOs when you were a sitting director?
I remember the doctor. I thought he was articulate and seemed to be bright. This was after I was in the CIA job, I believe. Not while.
Forgive me. I had kind of recalled it while you were director. I apologize.
But I think that something like that did occur because I remember the doctor writing about his meeting with me and sounding much more definitive than I remembered the discussion. And so I was not mad. I just said, well, he was pushing the envelope much more than I would like to see it pushed or believe it could be pushed. But I'd be willing to have the doctor show up these days and give you a call if you want it and see what people say.
Now, that was the main section on UFOs. I say main because out of respect for his time, and he's been very busy, and orchestrating and setting up this interview was hard to find a time that matched up for us. And I wanted to give him the respect that he deserved for spending time with me. And he was doing public relations for his book. Being the author of a couple myself, I understand how hard it is to put that together. And I wanted to showcase the work that he did. Not everybody's going to believe in his theory about the JFK assassination, but I wanted to highlight what he did. So I felt I was on borrowed time already with the UFO topic. So I attempted to transition back to the secrecy surrounding JFK. And I crafted my question as such, but I think that just with Zoom and, we were 3/4 of the way through the interview, I don't think he caught that I was trying to transition back to JFK. So rather, he crafted his answer to if I was still talking about UFOs and UAPs. Now, in the full interview, I clarified and did go back to the JFK assassination, had him answer and address that specifically. But here's his answer when it comes to the secrecy surrounding UFOs and how he put it. I appreciate all of the information on that. Let me transition back to what we were talking about, the secrecy around the assassination and your book, Operation Dragon. Recommend everybody to go buy it. I've got links to it in the show notes. If you're listening to the audio version, it's www.theblackvault.com/show notes. I'll link you right over to the ambassador's book. You can purchase that. I highly recommend you do so because you go into a lot of detail. You publish even letters from Oswald and kind of decode a lot of stuff in a very cool color insert in the middle of the book. So I highly recommend everybody to get that. Going back to the secrecy, though, in your opinion, and again, more of the topics in your book, do you believe that there will be a time where either the CIA or the U.S. government as a whole will just say, okay, look, here it is. Here is everything we have on the assassination, truly 100%. You guys figure it out. Do you think that we are getting to that point?
I'm not sure yet, but if we get close to it, we ought to get up to it with a sense of both friendliness and skepticism. And we shouldn't neglect either one. We should not get into a mode in which we say only idiots could come up with a crazy damned idea like this. But we also shouldn't get into the mode of saying, hey, this is cool. It's really exciting. Yeah, let's go. No, I mean, no on both of those counts. Let's let the scientists and engineers examine, assess, play it straight, and see if there's anything out there that we all would want to know about.